maybe in Yavin.
I understand.
But I missed the Thursday night. I was bored. I didn't know what to do with my time.
You didn't know what to do with it.
And really, I usually I'm rushing, checking sponsors, trying to prepare, trying to figure out.
Okay. It was 2 o'clock.
My son is joining us.
Oh, wow. 1 second. Aren't you in Eretz Yisrael?
He was.
Where were we? Americans? Centers. And you're back? How was it? Yeah? You know my Talmud Mikey? Stroley. One of my boys. Amen. Okay. Talia Miriam Esther. This is Yochai? Okay. Yeah? What is Tully doing?
Tully's doing a whole bunch of sandwiches.
Okay.
A whole bunch of sandwiches. He says everything else leaves for what? Because you want to wait for another time.
Okay.
And he's also sponsoring what? $100.
Okay.
Pretty much covers.
Okay.
Big Monsey. And AB says he wants to sit in the back. He doesn't feel that he belongs in the front. I tried with AB. He's so far back that he didn't even know there's a matzah going to be on Monday. What's more important, the wedding or?
What's the wedding on Monday?
Yeah,
One second. Whose wedding is on Monday night? Whose wedding is that? I think I also have. I'll have to figure it out. Okay, ready to start? Okay, we're good. Good evening, my Rabbi Sai. First Shiur of Elul. So ready, the Naya Yar. This week's Parshas Shoftim. Letter Gimel. So that's page Shin Mem Zayin. Tonight's Shiur is sponsored Latzlochas Talia Miriam Bas Esther Shilas. The schus of Rav Simcha Bunim Berger should be a schus for all of us and for everybody who said, a little higher, for everyone who said Tehillim, for all the Chatufim, for all of those who are in Saras, anybody who needs Yeshua's, Be'ezus Hashem Yisbarach. Rav Simcha Ohr Chaim has helped. So many people have told me they've seen so many Yeshuas already from him. Be'ezus Hashem, we should be zoichet to see more and more for everyone. Amen. This week's parsha discusses the mitzvah of Soim Tasim Alecha Melech. The mitzvah, it's in Sheni, in Parshas Shoftim, Ki Savoya La'aretz Asher Hashem Elokecha Noisen Lecha V'yirishta V'yashavta Ba, and you're going to ask for a king, Soim Tasim Alecha Melech Asher Yivcha Hashem Elokecha Ba. You should, HaKadosh Baruch Hu will choose and guide you as to who to make king, and you should follow HaKadosh Baruch Hu and make him king. Take a look, Rabbi Said, the Zera Shimshon, letter Gimel, page Shin Mem Zayin. Let's learn the story of the first king of Klal Yisrael, Shaul HaMelech. Shaul HaMelech's kingship was unfortunately one that did not end it ended unfortunately with tragically with Shaul being killed, him, his son, and the Malchus moved over to Malchus Bais David. The Gemara in Yuma that we begin with discusses what was it that David HaMelech, what advantage did David HaMelech have and Malchusay over Shaul HaMelech? Zuk the Heilige Gemara, Zezav Zera Shimshon, quoting the Gemara in Yuma. Rav Yehuda Amar Shmuel mipnei ma lo nimshach es Malchus Beis Shaul. Why was Shaul not successful that his Malchus should be nimshach, that he should have longevity? Why not? Mipnei shelo hoya boy doifi. It was too good. It was too good. There was nothing. Shaul HaMelech was Malchus Beis Shaul, came from Yosef. Yosef is known as Yosef HaTzadik. There is no skeletons in his closet. It was almost too good to succeed. explains the Amar Rabbi Yochanan Mishum Rabbi Shimon ben Yitzchak, Ein mamidim parnas ala tzibur ele imken kupa shel shrotzim toile loy ma'chayrav. The only people who should become leaders of the Jewish people, parnas, a person who takes care of the tzibur, is a person who has what to hide. A person who taka has skeletons in his closet. This way, you can be sure they'll always stay humble. They'll always stay humble. They'll always be concerned. Efsher, cholila, someone's going to find out about my past, which will keep them from being a Baal Gaiva. Ela im ken kupa shel shrotzim toilem achav she'im tazuach daitei olav, as the king, if he becomes too complacent or he starts becoming too much of a Baal Gaiva, oimrim loy chazor la'acharecha, why don't you look over your shoulders? You remember your beginning? David HaMelech had what to be embarrassed about. David HaMelech had what to be worried that chas v'shalom, someone shouldn't expose him negative, and they were after him. Shaul HaMelech did not have that. Tainas Shmuel, that it's almost like too good to be true. He had only, so the reason his malchus wasn't nimshach was because of this reason, that he had nothing there to keep him down. That's what he says. I'll tell you why he lost his malchus. When he was originally appointed as king, initially there was a big part of Klal Yisrael that was not happy with him. They actually wanted to take him down, and they embarrassed him. And you know what he said? Nothing. Nothing. He was mevater, which you would think is a good thing, not for a king. He shouldn't be meichel al kvoidai, which is the whole sugya, Rabbi Isai, which we'll learn, Be'ezus Hashem, about being meichel on your kavod. A Talmid Chacham, a father, a kohen, that's right, a melech. Now, it would seem that obviously there's a machlokes, Rav and Shmuel. Because Shmuel is saying the reason his malchus didn't work was because there was nothing wrong. And Rav is saying because he was meichel al kavoidai. Says the Zera Shimshon, Rav and Shmuel, why are they arguing? But it is my opinion, says the Zera Shimshon, Eilu ve'eilu divrei l'kim chaim, there's no machlokes. Actually, they complement each other. And I'll explain, says the Zera Shimshon. Mahalach of this, v'nira d'loi pligi klal. V'ikra einish v'bnei shemachal al kavoid karav. Rav is the main reason, meaning, as we're soon going to see, Be'ezus Hashem, when a king is appointed to be a king, it's not up to you to decide whether or not you're meichel on your kavod. It's up to the Rabbeinu Shalom. It's up to the Rabbeinu Shalom. What does that mean? Because the Rabbeinu Shalom placed you as king. So disrespecting the king is disrespecting the Rabbeinu Shalom. I want to tell you a story. At the age of 34 years old, the Rebbe Shalom was mezaka me. He gave me a schus to start a yeshiva together with Or Sameach here in Monsey. And my title was Rosh Yeshiva at a very young age. 34 years old, there was still hair over here. This was still red. And, okay, I bumped into Reb Nosson Tzvi Finkel, my Rosh Yeshiva, Zechrono Levracha. And I said to Reb Nosson Tzvi, this was so narish, how silly I was. I said to Reb Nosson Tzvi, I said, Rebbe, I go into affairs, right? They sit me up front with people with white beards and this. I don't belong there. He says, Nicht for mir. They're putting me up in the dais. It's Nicht for mir. I don't. It's not. It's not lefi chvoidi. You know what he said to me? He said, they're not being mechabed you. They're being mechaber the Torah you represent. It's a nisht fadir. It's nothing to do with you. If you take it for you, then you have a problem. It's not you, it's the Torah that you represent. Okay? It's the Torah that you represent. It's a nisht fadir, he said. He gave me a little patch. It's not for you. It's for the Torah. The king doesn't, he's the king. But who made him the king? You know what, in Lashon HaKodesh, one of the words for ruler is called moishel, right? Mamlucha v'hamemshala. The root of the word moishel comes from the word moshel, which means an example. What does moshel have to do with moishel? Steht in Chazal, the moishel is a moshel. He's empowered by Hashem. That's why when Chazal want to give an example, they always say, Moshel lemelech. Moshel lemelech. If you want to know how the Rabbi Shalom feared the Welt, how the Rabbi Shalom, why he's doing this, why he does that, Moshel lemelech. Because the Malchus in this world is a moshel to HaKadosh Baruch Hu's Malchus. Soon we're going to see how it's negeh to Klal Yisrael, so we can bring this idea home to every single Yid. Because we're also known as Mamleches Kohanim V'Goy Kadosh. We are a nation, Mamleches Kohanim. Every single Jew. You're a Kohen? Yes, you are. Mamleches Kohanim V'Goy Kadosh. You're a Heilige nation compared to the rest of the world. You're a Kohen. And as one guy told me on an El Al flight about 20 years ago, he said to me, Rabbi, he says, you're an ambassador for God. You Jewish people are an ambassador. Your ambassador means you represent a higher authority. As like the Goy mir gesagt, and the way we act on an airplane, off the airplane, wherever we are, the Goyim are looking at us and they're saying, you are a moshel to the Melech. A moshel to the Melech, Mamleches Kohanim. That's what's called a Kiddush Hashem and Chas v'Shalom a Chilul Hashem. That's who we are. Jewish people have that identity and we're looked at that way. So we have to be moshel lemelech. I've told the Olam the story when a Yid, it says in Parshas V'eschana, one of the Parshas, that we missed a little bit. It says, Kihi chochmaschem uveinaschem le'enei kol ha'amim. The Torah is your chochma le'enei kol ha'amim. Asher yishmu, they're going to hear the words of the Torah v'yoymu, and they're going to say, Rak am novoin v'chocham agadol hazeh. What a smart nation. Mika amcha, who's like a nation that has chukim u'mishpatim tzadikim, such good rules. Azoy shteit in Parshas V'eschan, and says Rashi, if you do the mitzvahs the way you're supposed to, nechshavim kechachomim. The goyim will think of you as smart. But if you do v'im ta'avsu oisam, if we make mitzvahs but we don't know why we're doing it, then techshavu shoitim. You look like a fool. He asks you, why do you wear the thing on your head? Why do you do this? Why do you do that? I don't know. So you don't know what you're doing. So you don't look very intelligent. But if you can explain, you don't have to give the ganze explanation, just a little bit. Just enough for even a Gentile to understand. Techshavu chachamim. We went to New Hampshire many years ago. And we went on a hike on a Wednesday, and I noticed that the water in a certain place, it looked like it wasn't flowing. Rainwater is kosher for a mikvah if it's not flowing. Regular river water can be flowing, but rainwater has to be ba'ashbayrin. So I told my son at that time, was about 17 years old, I said, we have a minig every Erev Shabbos, we go to the mikvah. It looks like we might be able to use this river. It was about 20 miles away from where we're staying. That's 20 minutes in New Hampshire. No, for 20 minutes you can go to the mikvah. So on Friday afternoon, we came back to this place, to this national park. There was a guy with long bleached hair. Yuck. In middle of New Hampshire, standing at the booth taking like $3 for parking, like mikveh gelt. I go over to the guy and I said to him like this. I said, we have a tradition. On Friday, before the Holy Sabbath, we immerse ourselves in a natural body of water. It has to be that it's not flowing. Is there anywhere up this river that we can walk where the water is still, where I can be able to keep that tradition? And very respectfully, this teenage guy, he was probably in his young 20s, wasn't very old, but looked like, well, he says, if you go a quarter of a mile up the river that bends, there should be a place right over there. And as I'm walking away, I hear him say, I always knew the Jews are the chosen people. I didn't have to explain to him everything about mikvah it puts into the ground. Just explain what you need. 1 or 2 sentences, a natural body of water to immerse yourself before the Sabbath. That's enough. Just be masber a little bit, and Goyim will look at you with such respect, and you look and you act like a God, Hashem's, the Rabbi Shem's Mamleches Kohanim. That's the covet. Says the Zera Shimshon, V'nira deloi pligi klau, ikara einish. You know why Shul was held accountable and lost the Malchus? Because when they ridiculed him and they made fun of him when he initially became king, he should have not been Michael. It's not your kavod. It's the Rabbeinu Shalom's kavod, who made you into a king. Therefore, it's Masha Amar Shmuel Shalohaya Bashum Doifi. He means to explain why Rav was so right. Meaning, if bishleima im hayaloi shum doifi hayachol is natzel shatam shum meichel al kavoid oidekleisha yaimu chayzul achayrav. If he would have had some skeletons in his closet and they made fun of him, so there was a reason why we said, okay, you didn't want to be meichel, you didn't want to make a big fuss about it because then they're going to make a big deal about him. So you could say there'd be a svar, you'd have an excuse. If he would have had skeletons in his closet, then he would have had an excuse of why he didn't make a fuss. But because he didn't have anything wrong with him, so therefore he should have really been moiche on the Rabbeinu Shalom's covet, not his covet. That's why he was there for aval atash shum doivi bevada loy limchol. He shouldn't have been moichel. And now let's learn up the sugya, and he explains, and we'll learn a little bit of Jewish history. Zuk de Zera Shimshon aval adayin kosha shalachar mashem mochel al kavoide kahaygen asa. Aren't you supposed to be mochel al kavoide? Shaiba oisiyam nisman al melech. He had just become king. V'amu kol ha'am yichi ha-melech le'nogu b'koved ke-melech. They weren't noyed covered where they're supposed to. Get a sieve like it says. Vayishlach Shmuel es kol ha'am ish lebeisa v'gam sholachoi lebeisa vayelchu imay hachayil asher noga lekim belibam. When the day they inaugurated Shaul, instead of parading him in the streets the way you would normally parade a king, everybody just went home. And he went back to his own house, and only a few Jews went along with him. And came a group of people, B'nai Belial, who said, get rid of him. Vayovai B'nai Belial, and they went to complain. Continues the Zera Shimshon. V'haloi minaroyu hoyu sheyelchu kol ha'machrov. They should have followed him. It was only a few individuals that HaKadosh Baruch Hu, that they had Yerushalayim. Which means that they had not yet accepted Shaul as a king. So asks the Zera Shimshon, maybe Shaul was not at fault because maybe he wasn't yet completely inaugurated. And I'll bring you a raya. V'chein nira mishpat haksuvim. Shari achar kach siv v'kchu v'nelcha Gilgal v'nechadesh shama malucha. They had actually a second event where they inaugurated him properly, and that's when all Klal Yisrael participated. So maybe Frek the Zera Shimshon, maybe Shaul was right for not being moicha yet, because maybe his malchus was not yet really solidified. V'kvar yadua, atzas hasekenim, we know hayoim tia eved la'om hazeh v'lohoyu l'chol la'avodim she'in ro l'melech laharis dinu mishpat b'tchilas malchus. And I want to add, says the Zera Shimshon, you know, we don't usually learn Navi, unfortunately, but the story of Malchus Beis David dividing happened as follows. The background is Shlomo HaMelech, who built the Beis HaMikdash. He was Chacham Ekol Adam, but he was also a very tough king. He worked Klal Yisrael to the bone. He had taxed them. He used their resources. Building a Beis Hamikdash was not easy. When Shlomo HaMelech passed away, after he was nifter, his son Rechavam took over the Malchus. They approached him. Klal Yisrael approached him and said, "Can you please lift the tax? Can you please go easy on us?" It was the beginning of his malchus. He asked Zikanim, and the Zikanim said, "Listen to the nation. Serve them, and they will serve you." Tragically, he didn't listen to the Zikanim. Instead, as the Zera Shimshon is about to quote, as it says in the Lochem, he had friends who told him, "Be tough with them. They're soft." It was a terrible move. When they approached the Melech, Rechavam, Yeravam ben Nevat, who had been living in Mitzrayim, who was himself a great man, came with Klal Yisrael. And when Rechavam said, "I am going to work you to the bone more than my father," Klal Yisrael walked away from him. And that's when Malchus ben David split. That's right. And there became two kings, Yeravam and Rechavam. That episode happened in the beginning of his Malchus. The Zera Shimshon's asking the following question. If we pull a page out of history and we see that a king should not be tough, V'haraya Rechavam shouldn't be tough, so maybe Shaul wasn't at fault for being Meichel, because it was the beginning of his Malchus as well. That's where the Zera Shimshon is going with this question. He's comparing the two stories and he's asking, if you see Rechavam was wrong for being tough, so then why is the Gemara holding Shaul accountable for being easy?
But it's two different examples, apples and oranges. One is covered by Hashem, the other one was taxes.
Exactly. For Zuksta Eli, Zuksta Git, you're mechaven to the Zera Shimshon. You're Taka Talmud. Let's see it inside. Vikvar Yadua, let me show it to you inside. Vikvar Yadua, Gevaldik Rabbi Say. Atzas Hazikenim im Hayoim Tieh Eved La'am. The Hazikenim told him, V'hoya L'chol Avodim. They will be your servants. She'ein roy l'melech laharis din ha'mishra b'tchilas malchusay. You shouldn't be so tough in the beginning. Va'av tamid chacham darminan hosam kol tamid chacham she'na noikim v'noiter kenocha she'na tamid chacham. A tamid chacham is supposed to be strong and stand up for his respect. Ask Gemara hane'elovim ve'einu ovim. When somebody embarrasses you, aren't supposed to shut your lips. You're not supposed to answer back. So maskinan lo'olam denokad le'beliv. You're not supposed to answer back, but you're supposed to remember. Rashi over there says if someone else stands up for your honor, you should let him stand up for your honor. Shaul did hold on to this, like it says, Vahikim machrish. It says Vahikim machrish, which means he held on to it. So my question asked the Zera Shimshon basically is, why was Shaul so at fault for not being moicha? Yerechavam was at fault. Ma'ishna. V'yesh loima, like you said, Eli. Dilo oilam machmas malchusoy loy hoyoloy limchol. B'shum tekvar nivchar ma'kadosh baruch hu lemelech. HaKadosh Baruch Hu chose him. Ubal korchai shal Yisrael tzichem lechabdoi. Once HaKadosh Baruch Hu said, you're supposed to be the king, that means that Klal Yisrael is not being mechabed just the melech, they're being mechabed the Rebbeinu Shel Olam. V'lo shayich kochatam de'im hayoim tia eved. Deshani hasam berechovam, it was told in the Bechira of Klal Yisrael. V'adarab, kvar nigzig gezera damach baisus recholek. There, taka, there was a shtickle punishment. Aval kan, now look at the words, Rabbi Sai, right here, the Heilige Geveret of the Zera Shimshon. Aval kan hakavoid sheloi hu shel hakadosh baruch hu. This is the Rabbeinu Shalom's honor. In the Luchos, how many mitzvahs are there in each Luach? 5 and 5. What's the difference between the first Luach and the second Luach? Ben Adam lechaveiroi, Ben Adam lemokoim. The Ben Adam lemokoim and the Ben Adam lechaveiroi are parallel. Do you know why? When you respect your chaveiroi, you're respecting the Rebbeinu Shel Olam. And when you cholila mevaza chaveiroi, you're mevaza the Rebbeinu Shel Olam. Because a person has a tselem elokim. Each one of the Aseres Hadibras, says the Maharal, parallel each other. Anoichi Hashem Elokecha parallels lo sirtzach. Because you can kill a person physically, and if you disrespect him, a person is mevazes chaveiroi, is keilu horgoi. Why? Because you disrespected his honor. Let's talk for a few minutes. The sugya of malchus, the sugya of kavod. The Rabbeinu Nissa, my Rebbe Zecharon Levracha, used to say, the name of a neshama, your neshama, is called kavod. Leman yizamercha kavod. The honor of a person, the respect of a person, nichnas ad toich nishmasai. A person's self-respect, where does the neshama come from? It comes from tachas kisei hakavod. Listen to the words, Rabbi say. Kisei hakavod. You can only give respect if you're shayach to the concept of malchus. Let's be masber. Let's take a few minutes to explain a Yesoid Gadol in the Tzuras HaAdam and in our Avodas Alekim, the sugya of malchus. Pshat Zazoy. Pshat Zazoy. When HaKadosh Baruch Hu created the world, He created the world with different midos, with a mid of chesed. Oilam chesed yibonei. HaKadosh Baruch Hu was mechased with the breed, he didn't have to do it, he made chesed. Good. Chesed is mitzad HaKadosh Baruch Hu, the giver. HaKadosh Baruch Hu also was a judge. He gave Indian of Gevura. Different midos. There's one midah of the Zion midos. L'cha Hashem hagdula hagevura v'atiferes v'anetzach v'ahoid ki chol b'shamayim v'oretz, the midah of Yisoid, of Yosef HaTzadik. L'cha Hashem hamamlacha. Malchus requires a giver and a taker. Your person only can have kavod if somebody gives kavod. I always remember Gorbachev was the head of the USSR until one day he walked away from the whole thing. He became from when Russia fell apart. So Olam remembers that back in the days of Ronald Reagan. One morning he got up and he said, end of USSR. And all of the other nations, Poland, Czechoslovakia, all those nations that had all been under his reign, he let them go free. And then he became Ois Prime Minister. He went from being a chashuv person where everybody was giving him respect to in one day becoming like a regular civilian. When a person has a following, he has people are mechabed him, so that's a midah of malchus. Then you have kavod. If nobody has anybody who follows them, so then they don't have respect. My Rebbe Zechron Levracha said, he said this over from Reb Dessler, he said that when Chazal teach us that the person's neshama is called kavod, that means that every single person needs to have a minimum of respect, self-respect and respect from others. And if you would drain all of the kavod from a person, they wouldn't be able to exist. They would simply die. And here's how Reb Dessler explained how my Rebbe said, we said it over here once or twice already. He said like this, you ever go into an insane asylum, or you ever heard where people, gegangen meshiga, they went crazy. There's some people who think they're Napoleon. There are some Jewish people who believe that they're Mashiach. I know such a person. I know such a person, Nebuch, who believes that they talk to Netanyahu. They'll look you straight in the face and they'll tell you, and I give him eitzes. Mamish, ad kedei kach. What happened to this person? What happened to this person? What happened? Says Rav Dessler, the tzuras ha'adam is based on the nefesh of the neshama is called kavod, is based on the concept of a person has to have a certain level of respect. When you drain all of the respect from the person, as Scheiner, nobody in the whole world, he gets no respect, one of two things happen. Either he dies, because he can't live this way. If he's still alive, his mind snaps and goes from the least respected person to the most respected person. Because all of that lack of kavod, he now thinks he's a king, or he's Mashiach, or he's an advisor to the king, because the lack of kavod. The homeless people in California, if you ever walk by, and you can get close enough, because Nebuch, and you can listen to them, they live in a world of their own, where they're talking to themselves, because you can't be homeless and stay normal. So the mind snaps. Rav Dessler says that the yesod comes because the nefesh of a person is called kavod. It needs respect. And if you take away kavod from a person, that's what Chazal mean, you're killing the person. Literally. Embarrassing a person and draining their kavod meant mahargit them. You're mamish killing that person because you're draining his neshama. And if chas v'shalom, a person loses the minimum amount, he feels he's a shtick garbage. He feels he can't make a parnasa. He feels he can't do this. He feels like the kids don't respect him and this and that. The person will either chalila be nifter, and if they're not nifter, then they'll go into a world where they snap because they can't deal with reality anymore. They can't deal with reality, and that's Medivrei Chazal to explain what happens psychologically or emotionally to a person and why a person snaps when Chalil they have no kavod. That's what Reb Dessler explained. My Rebbe Zechron Levracha explained. The tzuras ha'adam comes from kisei hakavod. The reason we come from kisei hakavod is because we're expected to give kavod to the Rabbi Shalom. Because no other bria in the world can give kavod to the Rabbi Shalom the way the tzuras ha'adam can. A fly can't give kavod to Hashem, a behemoth can't give kavod to Hashem, an elephant can't, but a person can. V'kol ma shebara HaKadosh Baruch Hu ba'olamai lo yibra ela lichvoidai, to give us an opportunity to relate to Him and bring out the kvoid shamayim. When HaKadosh Baruch Hu b'meheira b'yameinu will bring the Mashiach, He'll bring the Mashiach as not melech ha'olam. He'll bring the Mashiach as Baruch Atah Hashem Elokeinu, our God, and then Melech HaOlam. Ki hu Hashem Elokeinu v'anachnu Yisrael Amai. Whenever the Rabbi Shalom makes a miracle, it's not to stop and, hey, everybody look, I'm Hashem. No, I'm Hashem, the Hashem of Bnei Yisrael. Elokeinu. He's miskasher to the hu Hashem Elokeinu v'anachnu Yisrael Amai. We're his nation, and we have that individual kesher with the Rabbi Shalom to bring out Kvoid Shamayim. Shaul HaMelech's mistake, says the Zera Shimshon, was it's not about you. It's about the Rabbi Shalom. And that's what my Rebbe, Zechron Levracha, Reb Nosson Tzvi Finkel said. It's not about you, it's what you represent. And that's true, Rabbi said, for all of us. Every single one of us in our interaction between Gentiles and Jews, every single time we have a handlerai, whether it's getting parking at Scheiner's, whether it's driving on the street, when a person acts with dignity, you're not bringing out just your kavod, you bring out kvoid shamayim. You're making Hashem look good. And that's what we're put in this world for. Lich voidoi, for the Rabbeinu Shloms, because the essence of what a yid does, the essence of every human being is the midah called kavod. That's how there is malchus in the world. By giving Hashem kavod, we're able to do so because we are creations. Our neshamas are creations of kavod. You can't give kavod unless you're a shaykh to that. And that's what we have. The Rebbeinu Shalom's owns helfen. We should be zoicha, as it says by our davening, Be'ezus Hashem on Rosh Hashanah. V'kol asher neshama ba'apoi. They should all say Hashem Elokei Yisrael Melech. Because HaKadosh Baruch Hu knows himself as Elokei Yisrael Melech. Umalchusoi bakol mashallah. He starts off with us. The more we are good and we are accepting the Rebbeinu Shalom's malchus and we live that way, the stronger his malchus is. The stronger his malchus is that Kum Melech HaMashiach b'mheira v'yameinu. Chananya ben Akashim Ratzah Kodesh Baruch Hu Lazakos Es Yisrael Leficha Chirbolam Torah Mitzvah Shenemar Adonai Chafetz Leman Sid Koi Yadil Torah v'Yadir.
My son had your.
Avi Tagid.